New York State Senator and Naleo First Vice President, Gustavo Rivera.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the third day of the Naleo 41st Annual Conference, which you will notice is the quietest morning of all the mornings. I wonder why. Actually, I know why. The answer is anyway, just want to take 1 second before we go on to just as a point of personal privilege to say I had the great honor of serving for 6 years on the board. Yesterday was my last day on the board. It's been an immense honor to be part of this organization at the board level. Thank you. And although I will continue to be involved, I'll no longer be a member of the board, but it has been left in great hands. This is a phenomenal organization. Thank you for giving me the honor to be part of it. But moving on, I hope that all of you have participated in illuminating conversations that have added to your professional networks. I hope you got your dancing on last night, and that you learn a thing or two to bring back to your jurisdictions all across the country. Now, to kick off our final day, I'd like to share an update on the Naleo Service Project that is benefiting the Just One Project. I'm very pleased to announce that after all our volunteer work over the last few days, it has paid off. We're not quite there, though. We have assembled 1,062 heat mitigation and school supply kits. Give yourself a hand for that. These heat mitigation and school supply kits will benefit, a deserving child here in the Las Vegas Valley. But remember that our goal is 1,200 kits total. So please make sure after this great plenary, fill yourselves with coffee and go over there and get a couple of bags, each one of you, and make sure to fill an additional one when you leave this session. Now, I want to thank you all for the support for such an incredible organization, the Just One Project, and all the help that you have for the next generation. Now, give yourselves a round of applause for the work you've done so far on that one. Now, in honor of this occasion, it's only fitting to bring to the stage the Naleo Service Project presenting sponsor, that is State Farm. And today they're represented by La Señorita Paula Lutes, the Legislative and Regulatory Counsel for State Farm and Naleo Education Board member, as well as our Naleo Service Project host, AT&T, that is represented by La Señorita Lupita Sanchez Cornejo, Director of External and Legislative Affairs for the Greatest Los Angeles region. So let's put our hands together for them, please.
Buenos dias. How are we feeling this morning? Buenos dias, mi Naleo familia. I'm Lupita Sanchez Cornejo, the Regional Vice President of External Affairs for AT&T in our Greater Los Angeles region. I am honored to be here today celebrating with all of you and representing AT&T. My first Naleo conference was 30 years ago, also here in Las Vegas. I sat in a room very much like this one with Latinos from across the country, and it brings me such joy to see a sold-out crowd as more and more Latinos are elected to public office. Let's give you all a round of applause. And while I have attended several Naleo conferences through the years, my very first conference was incredibly transformative in my life, as I was a part of the Naleo Shell Legislative Intern Program. Does anybody remember that intern program? Thank you, Arturo. I was one of 2 Californians that year, and the collaboration between Naleo and the private sector is crucial to advancing opportunities and empowering the Latino community. It's truly my privilege to be here and represent AT&T, along with my colleagues, as we host the Naleo Service Project with the Just One Project. Their mission is to increase access to food, resources, and services to build a stronger, healthier, and a more connected community. That is also our purpose and the core of who we are at AT&T, a more connected community. We help people and businesses come together and build bridges to help one another and each other towards greater possibility. We are strengthening our network to support smarter homes, smarter cities, high-quality remote healthcare, augmented and virtual reality, and innovative workplace collaboration tools. And most importantly, we make it easy to stay in touch with your family. Whether it's calling your mommy or your abuelita, we help families stay connected when distance keeps us apart. Providing those connections is in AT&T's DNA. I'm incredibly proud to be here at Naleo, standing alongside hundreds of Latino elected and appointed officials who are paving the way toward a better America. Together, we're realizing the American dream that our families came to this country to pursue. I stand here as a first-gen Latina and someone who has benefited from the opportunity that has been given to me. And like others have said, I'm a first-gen everything, first-gen to graduate high school, first-gen to go to college, first-gen to go graduate school. And I was also the first Latino/Latina to be the chairman of the board of the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce in our 100 years to lead that organization. But I also know that I won't be the last. And now I currently chair one of the largest business organizations in the LA region, also the first Latina in 75 years. But it's those kind of connections with company and corporations and nonprofits and all of you that help support organizations like the Just One projects and to help those families. That just brings me such joy because I know that I benefited from those programs as well, as many of our families have. Thank you for allowing me to be here with you today and enjoy the rest of the conference. Mil gracias.
Good morning. Hello, my name is Ana Estrada, and I am a charitable chola. I am wearing my fancy hoops for you guys. I am from Las Vegas. I know, woo! I am representing Las Vegas, but more importantly, I work at the Just One Project. The Just One Project is a nonprofit organization. It was started as a connector of food. But currently, we are doing wraparound services. That includes serving our abuelitos and abuelitas. So a lot of the services that we have are Meals on Wheels. We also have we serve about 20,000 people here in Las Vegas monthly, whether it's pop-up distributions, whether it's camps, whether it's our markets and our CCSD sites. We are everywhere, making sure that we are connecting our families with food, but then making sure that we have those wraparound services. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you all for helping us with the PACs. We love Naleo, a great team, and then we also want to make sure that we highlight AT&T and State Farm because they have been the ones to really set this up for us. The PACs will be going to 4 of our sites. They're at CCSD, our Family Support Center, Manch Elementary, Mojave, and then we also have Garside Middle School. So a lot of the work that you guys have done are going to our families that really, really need it. And then again, thank you so much for everything. Mil gracias. And if you want to be a charitable gangster, I call to action in your own cities to really volunteer your time, your talents, and of course, any donations. You guys want to be a charitable gangster here? The shirts are available for sale. I'm just throwing it out there, and then they all go to the community and to help out with our funding. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Buenos dias. Good morning. I'm Evelyn Garcia Morales, President of the School Board for the Clark County School District Board of Trustees. Gracias. The opposite of fear is love. And in our times today, when communities face increased poverty, increased food insecurity, increased housing insecurity, it is incumbent on organizations to partner and systems to partner with organizations to support and benefit communities who need it the most, our children. I'm incredibly proud to partner with the Just One Project. Gracias, Ana, and your board of directors and your sponsors for providing resources for our families who absolutely need it the most. Incredibly grateful to all of you for your commitment to our communities, for your service, and for your leadership. Enjoy the rest of your morning.
Again, thank you, Señorita Paula Lutes, Señorita Sanchez Cornejo, Señorita Estrada, and Honorable Garcia Morales. Now, we all feel a tremendous gratitude that we can assist in the Just One Project through this year's NALEO Service Project, and we could not do it without support of our Service Project presenting sponsor, State Farm, AT&T, and the volunteer participation of all of our conference attendees. So thank you all again. And let's give them one more round of applause, please. Now, exactly. And speaking of Boricuas, I want you to join me in welcoming to the stage my partner, but I guarantee you not in crime, in our board, and that is our NALEO President, Hudson County Clerk, E. Junior Maldonado, for the presentation of the NALEO President's Award. Let's give it up for Junior. Stylish bastard. Love it, love it.
Thank you, brother. Hey, hola, everyone. Buenos dias. All right, you know, people trickling in, but let's hear. Hola, buenos dias. Good morning. Let's wake up a little bit. Get that coffee in the system. This morning, I have the distinct honor and privilege of presenting the NALEO President's Award to one of the long-standing supporters of NALEO. In 1997, NALEO's second president, Speaker of the New Mexico House of Representatives, Raymond G. Sanchez, established the NALEO President's Award to recognize and thank those individuals and organizations who have made outstanding contributions to the mission and work of NALEO and the NALEO Educational Fund. This year's recipient has been a supporter for longer than the award's existence and has shown year after year their dedication to our mission, work, and longevity. This year, I am honored to present the NALEO President's Award to Wells Fargo in appreciation for their outstanding support of the NALEO Educational Fund. For nearly 3 decades, Wells Fargo has been an essential partner to NALEO Educational Fund, ensuring that Latinos remain active participants in American democracy and helping equip Latino policymakers with the tools and support they need to deliver for their community. So thank you, Wells Fargo, and congratulations on this honor. Let's hear it for them again. Your NALEO family looks forward to your continued participation and partnership with our organization. Here to accept the award on behalf of Wells Fargo is Alfredo Pedrosa, Senior Vice President, Senior Director, Government Relations and Government Policy, Wells Fargo. Let's give him a round of applause.
Buenos días, mi Naleo familia. Qué orgullo estar aquí con todos ustedes. Gracias, Presidente Maldonado, for this incredible honor and recognition of our storied partnership. I'd like to take a quick moment to recognize and thank Arturo Vargas for his 30 years of service and dedication to stewarding the legacy of our late founder, Congressman Edward Roybal. He would be proud of your tenacious work of ensuring the full participation of Latinos in our American democracy. This work is important now more than ever. Happy Pearl Anniversary, Arturo. My name is Alfredo Pedrosa, and I am honored to accept this award on behalf of my over 200,000 Wells Fargo colleagues who work every day to ensure that our customers have access to the education, tools, and services they need to build and maintain their financial health and wealth. Wells Fargo's journey with Naleo dates back well over 35 years, and in those years we have been privileged to be a part of the work of this great organization. From helping thousands of Latinos become naturalized citizens across the country to providing subject matter expertise through policy institutes on issues of affordable housing, financial health, wealth building, small business growth and Latino entrepreneurship, advancing Latino homeownership, and career development for newly elected officials in the hopes that each of the beneficiaries of these programs carries these opportunities and pays them forward to their families, to their communities, to their constituents, and the next generation of Latinos. Each of you in this room are a testament to this partnership. Each of you are the reason we keep doing this work. Each of you is that hope realized. I want to thank and recognize my colleagues in the room who are here today, in particularly Pati Juarez, Head of Latino Affairs at Wells Fargo, the Honorable Ruben Barales, Naleo Board Member, and my good friend Peter Brightbill, who's the reason I'm here at Wells Fargo. Over the past 14 years, it has been an incredible honor getting to know many of you here in this room and hearing your inspiring stories of perseverance, dedication, and service to help uplift our communities. On behalf of the Wells Fargo employees across this country and in your local communities, thank you for this honor, and thank you for your dedicated public service. All of us at Wells Fargo look forward to our continued partnership to strengthen our communities, our country, and our democracy. Latinos are key to those achievements. Con mucho amor, con mucho honor, mil gracias.
Congratulations again to Wells Fargo. Let's hear it one more time for this great company. We are now delighted to be joined at this Naleo conference by another member of the President's Cabinet, the Honorable Julie Su, Acting U.S. Secretary of Labor, is nationally recognized expert on workers' rights and civil rights who has dedicated her distinguished legal career to advancing justice on behalf of poor and disenfranchised communities, and is a past recipient of the highly regarded MacArthur Foundation Genius Grant. Let's give her a round of applause and welcome her to the stage.
Good morning, everybody. Buenos dias. I'm assuming this is the group that did not partake of the tequila ice sculpture. Yes? Or maybe you did, and this is going to be a really fun speech. I want to thank you so much, President Maldonado, for your introduction and for your incredible leadership over this organization. Like so many good things, it was founded in my home state of California. Californians in the house. Let me also say a word of thanks to the legend, Arturo Vargas. That's right. For his vision for Naleo and his leadership over the past 3 decades. And to Alejandra Sotelo Solis, Alejandra, are you here in the room? Alejandra, it's so awesome to see a fellow woman of color shaking things up in the organization and on the dance floor, apparently. So I'm really glad to be with all of you. And as the folks in this room know, good jobs change lives. They bring dignity and respect. They help to uplift families. And as President Biden often says, they're about being able to look your children in the eye and say everything is going to be okay and mean it. And that shouldn't be too much to ask for. But unfortunately, for too long, for too many workers, it has been. And for too many Latino workers, it still is. Earlier this week, I was in Florida meeting with resilience workers. These are overwhelmingly Latino workers who go in after disasters like hurricanes, floods, wildfires, and do cleanup work and rebuilding. And while the rest of us run away from those disasters, these Latino workers run toward them. And we are working to make sure that those jobs are jobs with decent pay and where workers don't have to lose their limbs, their lungs, or even their lives just to do them. No worker should have to work full-time year-round and live in poverty. No worker should have to work 2 or even 3 jobs just to piece together a life. And today, President Biden's Investing in America agenda is about making sure that people don't have to. That's why I've launched a Good Job Summer Tour where from Phoenix to Fort Lauderdale, from Birmingham to right here in Las Vegas, I'm meeting with workers and with employers to make the promise of a good job a reality for all. And good jobs are not just transformational for those who do them, they also uplift an entire community. They instill hope. And in President Biden's America, we're investing in working people and in jobs in those communities who need them the most. So to understand where we are going, we have to remember where we were. And you all know this, but in 2020 and early 2021, just before President Biden came into office, we were in the middle of a tremendous, huge, disastrous pandemic. COVID was raging, there was no national strategy to get it under control, and unemployment was at record levels. And some working people continued to go to work, putting themselves at great risk to do so. And when people went to the store, we didn't know if we were gonna be able to find toilet paper. And people were talking about this concept of supply chains. It became relevant because due to decades of disinvestment in this country, we had become over-reliant on other countries for things as basic as surgical masks to things as revolutionary as semiconductor chips. And so, let's compare that to where we are today. Since President Biden's come into office, over 15 million jobs have been created in this country. That is the most jobs under any president in the shortest amount of time in history. And the unemployment rate remains at historic lows for the longest stretch since the 1960s. Also, the gap in unemployment between white workers and Latino workers and between white workers and black workers is the lowest that it has ever been. We have more work to do, but it shows that when we are intentional about investing in workers and intentional about equity, we can change things. The other thing is that real wages are up. They actually exceed the rate of inflation, which means more breathing room for working families. And President Biden is working to cut costs, like prescription drug prices, like capping the cost of insulin so you don't pay more than $35 a month, like fighting, that's right, like fighting corporate consolidation and the result of that, which is that companies can engage in price gouging, right? Prices aren't going up by accident. They're going up because some see that they can profit from it. And now, due to the president's actions, companies like Walmart and Target have recently announced that they're going to lower their prices. So none of that happens by accident. Leadership matters. Remember something else from the past, the promise of an infrastructure week that never materialized, right? It became a punchline. And we've also turned that around. In fact, instead of an infrastructure week, we are now building an infrastructure decade. And the members of Congress who've been at this conference have helped to make that possible. I'm talking about historic investments in making sure that there are safe roads and bridges in every single community, that every family who turns on the faucet in their home gets clean drinking water, that every community has access to high-speed, reliable internet. And this is not just an opportunity to deliver roads and bridges and clean pipes, but to create good jobs for those communities who have been left out of good jobs for far too long. Now, how we make sure that those opportunities are widely shared is really critical. We have to think about that as infrastructure too. It's the roads and bridges that connect people to the good jobs they want and need, and employers to the people that they want and need. And that infrastructure, those roads and bridges, also need attention. They also need to be strengthened. They also need to connect to communities that have been left out, just as they've been left out from our physical infrastructure in the past. And so we're also building that infrastructure differently this time. We're building a workforce infrastructure that's as strong as our physical roads and bridges and that will reach every single American community. I call this our nation's opportunity infrastructure. And we're working in all of your communities with employers, with unions, with the K through 12 and community college system, with workforce boards in your district and in your regions, and with community-based organizations that serve those who have been shut out. Immigrants' rights organizations, civil rights organizations, women's organizations, those organizations that serve vulnerable populations, single mothers, justice-impacted individuals, and more. And we're working with all of them to build the high road to the middle class. So please help us build that opportunity infrastructure. Help us spread the idea that every job should be a good job. And I invite all of you to join our Good Jobs Alliance, which we're bringing to communities all across the country. Now, let me say another thing about the high road, which is that you can't build the high road if you don't combat the low road. And what I mean by that is, that's right, you guys know what I'm talking about. Like ending the use of illegal child labor. Many of them Latinos, 13-year-olds working on the kill floor of a meatpacking plant, cleaning overnight, working with dangerous chemicals, working with dangerous machines. We can't build the high road if we don't combat the low road by ending wage theft. And we have to tackle the problem that there are employers in our communities who've decided that it's cheaper to break the law, that the chances of getting caught are slim, and the consequences if you do get caught are minimal. And many of those same employers are the ones who weaponize immigration status to further their exploitation. We say to that, not on our watch. Enforcing labor laws is one of the most important things that government can do. It provides a floor beneath which nobody should have to live and work, and enforcing labor laws is good for law-abiding employers. It creates a level playing field so that the bad actors who break the rules don't determine what that industry looks like. So we are putting wages into workers' pockets. We're restoring the promise of a 40-hour work week by expanding overtime pay to millions of workers. We're protecting people's hard-earned retirement savings. And we're working on the first nationwide heat standard. We're in Las Vegas, but you can be almost anywhere right now in the country and know that is so important to protect workers from indoor and outdoor heat that is causing too many workers to get injured and even die on the job. And we're protecting workers from their immigration status being weaponized against them, so that now workers who come forward to report violations, who cooperate to help us enforce the law, we can't do our jobs if workers don't feel safe coming forward, can get deferred action and be protected so that their immigration status isn't a reason for them to live in fear. Because as we all know, working people, immigrants who come to this country to work, do not check their humanity at the border. And this week, President Biden announced a change to keep families together. And that's going to protect against the deportation of an estimated 500,000 undocumented spouses of US citizens. And in that same announcement, he is fortifying DACA. As we all know, the young people who've come here and have lived here and built their entire lives here, who work here, who've built families and are building their communities, should have every right as the rest of us do. So I'm gonna close by saying we definitely have more work to do to end child labor in this country, to ensure that every worker gets a just day's pay for a hard day's work, to make sure that every worker goes home healthy and safe at the end of a workday, and to make sure that all of our communities have access to good jobs that change their lives, bring hope, and build up their communities. And my promise to you is that we are all in. President Biden is all in. Thank you for all that you do, and let's continue to do this work together. Thank you so much.
Let's give it up for Acting Secretary, Labor Secretary Julie Su, please. Again, congratulations to Wells Fargo for receiving this year's President Award. Now, up next, I'm excited to introduce this morning's plenary, Strengthening the Foundations for Latino Economic Growth, which will be moderated by the Honorable Susana Mendoza, Illinois State Controller. As I found out, not only the first woman, the first Latino to be elected statewide, but the first Latina woman to be elected statewide. And this plenary will explore the current and future state of Latino economic growth and influence while identifying strategies that policymakers can support to increase our economic mobility and prosperity. And to get the conversation started, join me in welcoming the Honorable Susana Mendoza.
Well, good morning. Good morning to everyone. Actually, I'm going to stand up here and then I'm going to introduce our panel and sit back down. I want to start by saying good morning and thank you to everyone who made it to today's breakfast. I have to say that I know it's the final day of NALEO, but even if it weren't, I think if this were the second day of the NALEO conference, we would still have a thinner crowd because of that party that Cabrera Capital had last night. So I am truly impressed that anyone is in the room today, and I'm very thankful that so many people are in the room today for this breakfast. I mean, does Martin Cabrera know how to throw a party or what? So I'm going to say a very big round of applause to all of you for having the fortitude to make it here today. And I want to also say that a very, very special thank you to the man of our hour for the last 30 years, right? Arturo Vargas. Big round of applause. I'm Illinois State Controller Susana Mendoza, and as you heard in 2016, I became the first Hispanic independently elected to serve in a statewide capacity in the state of Illinois. Thank you. I've been elected 3 times now, and I'm proud to say that even though controller is the least known title in all of government existence, I was the top vote getter in the state of Illinois in the last election in 2022. Prior to serving as controller, I was elected as the first woman ever to serve as city clerk in the city of Chicago. And before that, I was elected to 6 terms as a state representative in the Illinois General Assembly, serving as the youngest member of the chamber when elected in 2001. Now, as the state's chief financial officer, it's been my honor and privilege to have successfully navigated our state through the 2 worst fiscal crises in our state's history. Number 1, a budget impasse that lasted 736 days. It gave us a brutal $16.7 billion, with a B, $16.7 billion of unpaid bills. A rainy day fund of $48,000. There was more money than that spent on booze alone yesterday at Cabrera's party. Yes, today, thankfully, we no longer have a backlog. We have a working accounts payable. We're paying our bills faster than ever in the state of Illinois, which is my job to do. And we have a rainy day fund of over $2 billion and growing. I'm proud to say also that that bill backlog was paid down before a penny of federal ARPA stimulus funds came in the door. And while our state had suffered nothing but credit downgrades for the 20 years before I served as Illinois Controller, since getting elected on my watch, we've now had 9 full credit rating upgrades. So we are on a roll in the state of Illinois. And I'll be truthful, many had written off our state just a few short years ago. They thought we could never recover. But being that we're in Vegas, I must say, never, ever bet against the state of Illinois. We're a great state with an ever-growing pool of Latino representation. In fact, Illinois has an amazing group of talented Latina and Latino legislators representing us well here at this conference. A shout out and sincere thank you to these Illinois legislators for working so hard and making us so proud. I'm truly thankful to our man here, Arturo Vargas, to Jose Carrillo and the NALEO board for extending this invitation for me to moderate this morning's plenary session, strengthening the foundations for Latino economic growth. The aim for today's plenary discussion is to explore the current and future state of Latino economic growth and influence, while identifying policies and strategies that policymakers can support and advance to increase our community's economic mobility and prosperity. Now, according to a recent report from the Latino Donor Collaborative, U.S. Latino economic output, reached $3.2 trillion in 2021. The same study indicates that Latinos, if they were an independent country, their GDP would rank 5th in the world, ahead of the United Kingdom, India, and France. At the same time, however, most major polls of Latino voters indicate that the economy and the rising cost of living top the list of our concerns. Now, during this session, we will explore the current and future state of Latino economic growth and influence, while identifying policies and strategies that policymakers can support and advance to increase our community's economic mobility and prosperity. I hope you find this policy discussion interesting and helpful to you. And let me just say that we have an incredible panel with us today. Now, sharing their experience with us this morning are, to my left in this order, Ms. Ana Valdez, yes, round of applause, please. She's amazing, you will see. Ms. Patty Juarez, yep, I heard a woo. And Mr. Alfred Fraijo. Now, before I go and sit down and join my illustrious panel members, I do want to share a few fun facts about who they are. Now, let's start with Ana Valdez. She's the president and chief executive officer at the Latino Donor Collaborative. But her son, Alex, who's only 25 years old, just screened his first documentary. Yes, can you believe that? First documentary at the age of 25. And it's a piece about a jungle that was destroyed in Colombia that's now being restored. He's obviously an environmentalist. You should look up this amazing piece of art, because it is that. It's called The Power of One. And we here, ladies and gentlemen, to my left, have one proud mama on our hands. Now, Miss Patty Juarez, she's the head of Hispanic and Latino Affairs at Wells Fargo. And here's something fun about Patty. You should all know this. When she was just 10 years old, she was a child actor. I know, right? What? You're like, what? Wait, what? Yeah. So she was a child actor, and her claim to fame was playing the devil at the age of 10. Yes. She, too, is a proud mama. Her daughter is super duper smart and I think has all kinds of college offers, right? But really, the nuns were very worried about her at the age of 10 when she played the devil so well and nailed the devil heckle. She could do it. Ask her when you see her in the hallway. Okay. And let's talk about Mr. Alfred Fraijo, who is partner and founder at Somos Group. Now, what you should know about Alfred is that he is a recovering addict. I know. You should clap. He's a recovering addict. Not everybody wants to talk about that. But he's a recovering addict of Chicano art. Yes, Chicano art. He said this month has been especially tough for him, so he needs our support. But I have a feeling before he goes home, he's going to find something in Vegas to bring home with him. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, they all have incredibly impressive resumes. You can find their complete bios in the conference mobile app. But I'm going to ask each of them, as I sit down, to briefly introduce themselves, starting with Ana, then Patty, and then, of course, Alfred. And then we'll dive into the questions after that. Thank you for being here, everyone.
So thank you so much for those fun facts. And thanks everybody for being here. As it has been said, it was a really wild night for everybody, it seems. So my name is Ana Valdez. I'm the CEO of the Latino Donor Collaborative. We're a think tank that creates data that shows the economic impact of Latinos in the United States. So those numbers that you mentioned come from us, and many more that I would love to share through this conversation. I was born and raised in Mexico City.
Mexico!
And I left Mexico to do a master's in Spain. I worked at the United Nations, at the White House, with the Clinton administration, and then I lived in Los Angeles for 25 years. So very excited to be here. Thank you, Naleo. Thank you, Arturo. Thank you for putting this incredible event every year and for creating such a big difference.
Thank you.
Okay, Patty, take it away.
I'm a friend of Ana's. Good morning.
Good morning.
Buenos días a todos. Yes, it was a late night, especially with me. My parents are in tow, so we stayed out pretty late with my 77-year-old dad and 75-year-old mom, which was fun. Patty Juarez, been with Wells Fargo for a short 29 and a half years. I know, I started as a baby teller. I am the head of Hispanic and Latino Affairs at Wells Fargo. That's my most recent position, took over as that last July. And in that role, I am in charge of our client outcomes, our outcomes in the Hispanic community, as well as some of our representation outcomes with our colleagues within the company. So I have a multifaceted job. It's fascinating. It's great. I would do it for free, but don't tell my boss because I have to put a kid through college and then a second one after that. So I need a paycheck. But I love what I do because it enables me to support my beloved Latino community and try to make a difference as access to capital remains the #1 concern for entrepreneurs in our community as well. So good being here, and thank you for having me. Thank you, Arturo.
Muy buenos días. Mi nombre es Alfredo Fraijo. Es un placer estar con ustedes. It's really a pleasure to be with you this morning. And it is true, Comptroller Mendoza, I'm a crazy avid collector of Chicano art. I'm passionate about representation in every industry, especially in arts and culture. And I joke with my staff at the office. Occasionally, we'll have a crate, in my office. And they're like, "Well, Alfred, when are you moving this, or what's going on with this and that? Is it going to be hung? Is it going to be?" I'm like, "Jessica, don't worry about it. This piece is in a witness protection program." I haven't told my husband I purchased this piece of art, and when I tell him, we'll send it back home. Somos Group, the organization that I founded, is a multidisciplinary law and planning group based out of Los Angeles. We work with large and small organizations that are mission-driven, that are focused on creating more sustainable, more resilient cities throughout the country. I'd like to say that we operate at the intersection of city building and social justice. We do our work as experts in the law, in planning, in design, in architecture, in labor relations, and advocacy, all towards a common goal of working creatively to introduce new ideas and new models of development that we hope to create greater economic prosperity for our communities, especially our Latino communities. We do it through a data-driven approach to our work. I'm really honored to be able to speak to you all today about the status of the potential for economic empowerment among Latinos. In our office in Los Angeles and San Francisco, we're currently involved in the construction, permitting, and development of over 6,000 housing units in California. We represent, thank you. We represent organizations that currently are investing over $2 billion in land development in California and throughout the country. So I mention that because I approach our work through both data and the experience that we have around both the opportunities and the challenges that we're seeing in the marketplace in creating greater economic opportunity for Latinos. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Big round of applause for our panelists, please. And we're going to start with questions now. I'm going to go straight to Ms. Ana Valdez. So Anita, with the upcoming 7th edition of the Latino Donor Collaborative's U.S. Latino GDP report in mind, what is the importance of the report as it pertains to economies within states, the identification of emerging Latino markets, and overall economic well-being indicators for Latinos in the U.S.?
Thank you. That's a great question. And yes, we are actually coming up in September with the 7th Latino GDP report. And first of all, we're so excited. Second, I have to thank our partners at Wells Fargo who have funded this report since the very beginning, the whole table to avoid names, and of course, to avoid going through names, and then of course, Pati Juarez leading this incredible effort. We're very excited. And this report, I can't say numbers yet, but this report, we're including a number of things. My favorite one is a report about young people. And these young people, you will be, and we're doing a lot of different things and reports about them.
By
and
young people, do you mean like 50s?
You're right, yeah, exactly. That young people, I mean. No, actually, no, it's like 34 down. And it's a complete different cohort. And the people that are parents in this group would understand me. Yes. They think different, they're wired differently, and Gen Zers in general and Gen Alphas are wired differently. But Latinos specifically have this incredible combination of the power and the strength of their parents who build the 5th largest economy in the world.
That's right.
But all this commitment, first of all, 90% were born here. They are American, first language English. They are going to college because their parents sacrificed everything to send them to college, but they still have all this work ethic, this passion, this ambition, and that their parents had, and more importantly, this gratitude. You know, we make a lot, and I would have so much to share about this, but we do a lot of social media and social media analysis. And we've noticed that this time around, graduation time, right? Gen Zers and Gen Xers, they just are so proud of themselves, and they should, and they're very individualistic. They go and their social media is, look what I achieved, yes, you can, and my next step is gonna be killing, and that's fantastic. Latino kids actually turn around to their parents and give them their diploma and their hat and everything and say thank you because you made it happen. And that same emotion you feel, because I have a kid that graduated in May, and that same emotion you feel, they wear it in their sleeves, and they're in this world to make the sacrifices of their parents worth it. And another thing that they're very different from us, they have a voice. They have an opinion, and they raise it. And it shows in the power of dreamers, right? It shows in the power of, you know, the box office with young people and how they're deciding what to watch when they are well represented. It shows in brands. We're doing a report specifically about brands in partnership with L'Oreal and Colgate and Univision. And we're finding this impetu, we say in Spanish. And so all this to tell you that there's so much to come in September with this report and others, and you'll be really happy to see it. I'm very proud of your kids.
Oh, we're looking forward to it. Thank you, Ana.
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
And yes, and Patty, what are the ways that the banking sector has responded to the growth of the Latino community across the country, and how has your portfolio helped the Latino community with financial services? What are those lessons that you think have been learned along the way?
Well, I think when we established my role at the bank last July, I think it was in a direct response and as a very intentional step to honor the Latino community because it has become such an important part of our business. When you look at how many checking accounts are open, last quarter, over 40% of those are being opened by Latinos. So you can see the power that our community has in terms of numbers. And it is such an important constituency for us that they said we need a senior leader at Wells Fargo whose only job is to worry about serving Latinos in a right way at our institution. So a lot of the time that I have is I spend on looking at, from soup to nuts, from beginning when you are, entering college and you need your first checking account, all the way to when you're planning for retirement. How does the bank serve this community? What are the products that they need? What are the services that they need? Do we have them? Do we need to develop them? Do we need to enhance the line of products that we have to better fit the needs of the younger community, which is coming in strong because they're very digitally friendly and savvy? So they no longer want to walk in the branch like our tias and abuelitas. They want to do everything online. And so just adapting to kind of those changes, it is my responsibility to ensure that the bank is looking at that beyond today, right? What is the future?
Yeah.
What does the future bring for us? And I think that, for Wells Fargo, my position is the only one in the major banks that intentionally looks at our businesses as well as the community, as well as the colleagues right inside the bank, because you have to represent your community in your staff. You have to represent the markets that you serve. And we have a ways to go. I mean, banking, traditionally, male-oriented, not Hispanic. And so, but we have been really successful in bringing in new talent from all industries because we are over 200,000 members strong. So we need people in technology as much as in banking and other areas of the bank. So what we're doing is we're bringing in, and 20% of our incoming hires are Latinos. We're already the largest minority group within Wells Fargo, and our incoming workforce looks very much Latino. And if you look at the growth projections and how many people are graduating college and ready to take those higher earning jobs, Latinos are the #1 cohort. So we're very, very excited to be able to provide a platform for people to come and work for us. But then another concern I have is how do we retain them? Once we have people come into the firm, how do we give them experiences that they're going to cherish and they're going to like, and they're going to, take their talents and really help our firm deliver on our commitment to this community. So we have to represent those markets. So we are working on ensuring that at the senior leadership levels of the company, we're also better represented.
That's great. And Patty, first of all, a big shout out to Wells Fargo for identifying great talent and promoting it, because it's important for us to be, we all serve in a role model capacity, right? And here's a fact. When women are in charge of the money, things get done much better. I'm just going to say that right now. It is a fact. But it's really important for people to see themselves represented and think about kind of like in the STEM area, math and sciences, engineering, if little girls don't see themselves reflected in these faces, they don't think that's a path for them. And the same is true in finance. As Patty said, really a male-dominated environment, having women who really know how to handle things and have proven themselves in that capacity, but elevated to these large positions, whether it's in government or in the private sector, that's what little girls need to see all over our country. And the fact that they're Latinas, even better. Alfred,
yes.
I'm going to move on to you. Could you do us a favor of describing when homeownership became a gateway to economic prosperity for families in the United States?
Absolutely, happy to talk about it. And I think the coffee's kicking in, so I'm going to speak quickly, and we also only have about 20 minutes remaining. I mentioned that our work is really data-driven. It's informed by the information that is available from organizations like the one we have here with the Latino Donor Collaborative and other federal and state agencies. And what we realize is that we continue to contend with the historic injustice that is embedded in our economic system in America. And we can't really begin to have a conversation about solutions and opportunities for Latinos without acknowledging that historic system. We have in this country a system where the vast majority of economic power in America has been created by people of color. And yet we are the ones that have benefited the least.
That's right, preach.
We have, as you all know, with slavery and the emancipation, we're celebrating Juneteenth, that was yesterday. There was plenty of free labor that occurred even after we freed African Americans from slavery. Chinese Americans, Chinese immigrants that built our infrastructure and our railroads never truly benefited from that labor. You have farm workers that have never, until this day, have not been paid a fair wage, have not been allowed to benefit from the bounty of their labor. And we have to acknowledge that for us to think about the opportunities to move forward. And think about home ownership. Home ownership in America accelerated between 1940 and 1960. Does anyone know why that is? There wasn't a greater amount of Americans buying homes before and after that period. And that's because of the GI Bill that was adopted in 1944, right? The GI Bill was the single most important rocket fuel for income and class mobility in the United States. It allowed people to go to school for free, veterans. It gave them an assured income. It also gave them free incentives for home ownership, no down payment if you were a veteran buying a home, interest-free loans for a set period of time. And so the idea of the American dream became fused with home ownership at the time. And yet, that opportunity, the single greatest investment by the administration, was not accessible to Latinos. I'll give you just one data point. In New Jersey and New York, at the time that the GI Bill was adopted, over 67,000 new home loans were issued to veterans. Of those 67,000 loans, only 100 were made available to Black and Latino veterans. Imagine that.
It's crazy.
The vast majority of wealth in America, as we know, is in home ownership. Over 50% of Americans, over 50% of their equity, of the wealth that they have as family, is in owning their home. Yeah. And yet, the access to home ownership is still unattainable for many Latinos. So we can talk about the economic output of our communities, but let's really get to the bottom line when it comes to opportunities for social and class mobility. That's the real challenge.
So, on that point, though, so what are the opportunities and barriers that exist today, right now, for Latino homeownership?
The opportunities, we'll talk about the opportunities because, you know, I get passionate about the fact that we have to contend with these incredible, difficult aspects around the equity in our economy. And we have decision makers here in this room that have a role to play in giving Latinos greater opportunities. So I would say that we are really working and intentionally with our partners and our clients around making homeownership more available. How are we doing that? Number one is we're working with our elected officials, both at the state and local level, to increase housing production. We know that access to homeownership has to do with affordability. And affordability is impacted by production of housing. And so we've been working with our local partners to ensure that we have the right policies that are going to incentivize housing production. The other piece that we're working on is wealth generation for Latino families in America. How do we increase wealth opportunities? Not just job creation, but jobs that are able to create that generational wealth that we see. When we talk about home ownership, Ana mentioned the Gen Zs, right? And younger Americans. I'll give you just one example of how critical this issue of wealth transfer and wealth generation is for home ownership. If you look at America today, in 2023, last year's the data that's available, of all the homes that were sold, the homeowners, new homeowners that are 30 years and older, okay, that purchased their first home, over 80% of those polled bought their homes with their parents' money. Over 80%. And yet, in the Latino community, across the nation, across all families, only 5% of Latinos have the capacity, parents, to transfer their wealth. Think about that. The access to home ownership depends on family wealth and parental support. And we only have 5% of our Latino families with the capacity, the economic power to transfer wealth and opportunity. We got to tackle that before we can tackle home ownership.
Excellent, thank you. I mean, it's really eye-opening, right? So we were talking about some stuff earlier about how when I was a child, and I think maybe a lot of people here can relate, and I know that Alfred and I related to each other on this. I grew up in a household with incredibly loving parents, the hardest work ethic I've ever seen in my life, but I was always told to never talk about money. You know, it's rude, no se hace, son malos modales. You've probably all heard it. But I've come to realize, certainly as the state's chief financial officer, that the only people who don't talk about money are people who don't have a lot of money. People who have a lot of money, they talk about it all the time. I mean, honestly, if I were a rich woman who's pregnant, I'd be talking about my child about financial literacy while in the womb. That's what happens. And so we need to do a better job as Latinos to say we should always be talking about money. We should educate ourselves about money, about investment vehicles, so that we're not only relying on the traditional ways of building wealth, like home ownership, because by the time you're in your 20s or 30s, you've already missed on, potentially a decade or more of investing in the marketplace, but nobody talks to us about those things. So we need to make that a different way of thinking about income generation or generational wealth. It's available to everybody, even relatively poor people. To example, do things like open up a Roth IRA when you get your first job, right? So this is not the topic of today, but we are talking about how do you build that generational wealth, and I think educating our communities, both black and brown, as to the tools that are available today that you don't have to be rich, so that you're not having to work harder for your money, but your money is working harder for you. All right, I'm gonna move to Patty. Patty, as you interact with various sectors and businesses, can you describe business sectors in which you have seen dramatic growth for Latinos? And what sectors still need additional support to take them to scale and increase capital access specifically for Latino business owners?
Yes, well, speaking of wealth creation, the greatest equalizer that's going to come into play, besides owning a home, is going to be businesses, right? Mm-hmm. Business owners can create wealth that can be generational wealth that can be passed on to their families. So just to level set, from 2007 to 2019, so over 12 years, Latino businesses grew by 34%, while our white counterparts actually shrunk by 7% in terms of business creation in that same period of time. So you can already see that when it comes to entrepreneurship, Latinos are leading the pack, in terms of starting new businesses. Now, there's many, many issues in terms of helping business scale and getting them the right access to capital and all of that. But the industries that I see there's been a lot of growth in certainly have been in the construction industry, the food industry, health industry, and then real estate. And all of those industries are growing. And then in the service industries, we're kind of also overrepresented. And so, in essence, there's a lot of growth across industries. Where I think I can see we have more Latinos coming into the space, but we still are very much lacking, is in technology. And obviously, with the advent of AI and everything that's going on in our economy and our communities, it is important that Latinos are properly represented in technology. And I know Ana's done a lot of research around young Latinos going into STEM fields and AI and all of this, which is very reassuring. Mm-hmm. But today, only about 3% of the workforce in tech is Latino. Yeah. And so we're way under indexed, given that we're almost 20% of the population in this country. So there's lots of opportunity. And in the industries where we're overrepresented, such as what I mentioned, food, construction, service industries, those industries are harder to finance from a financial perspective because there's services, there's not like hard collateral that the banks like. In many respects, those are harder to finance. So you have this continued issue of our businesses being underfunded and, undercapitalized, which, hampers their growth potential. So we have to, we in the financial industry and as banks are looking at alternative ways to evaluate the credit capacity and the paying ability of underserved communities, particularly our Latino community, because I don't know about you guys, but the last thing I'm gonna do as a Latina is miss my mortgage payment or my car payment. My parents always taught me, like, you will not eat your hamburger or your Starbucks, but you're gonna go and make sure you pay your bills. So, with that in mind, I think we need to look at alternative ways to evaluate credit worthiness so that we are able to kind of chip away at that access to capital barrier.
Well, it's so nice to know that that is a focus, right? And that you're thinking that way, that it's, breaking the traditional ways of thinking about that we're not all painted with the same brush. It's not, everyone fits in the same box, one size fits all. It's never like that. But if we don't have people like you in the room adding to that dialogue, then we're never going to be represented or thought of in terms of alternatively, how can we help make those connections? So thank you once again, Patty.
It's a pleasure.
I would just highlight, Comptroller, on the issue of Patty's point regarding credit and access to financial tools. What we know is that Latinos of all minorities access non-traditional financial sources that are more expensive in higher percentages compared to other minorities. So
like
having
payday lenders and things like that.
Exactamente. So having organizations like Wells Fargo thinking intentionally about how expanding the tools for financial opportunities, whether it's investing in small businesses, buying your first home, saving for your children's college education, et cetera. Those are really key interventions that are going to accelerate income mobility. So thank you, Patty, for highlighting that.
Very true. ¿Es verdad?
Es cierto.
Es cierto, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay. Anna, could you share some of the key data metrics related to population share, labor participation by key workforce sectors, and educational attainment of Latinos? Where have you seen these areas of growth, and where are there opportunities to scale or improve?
Absolutely, thank you. So I'm going to start with demographics, right?
Yes.
So as I said before, 25% of all the young people in this country are Latinos. That's 1 out of every 4 Americans. That if you think about that, if some of you are in brands, when you have a cohort or a segment that is 25% of all your potential sales, that's key, right? So one of the things that we are constantly bringing attention to is that when you talk about diversity, when you make Latinos part of that big group, general group that is diversity, you're missing a lot of points. You are having a big blind spot because not all diversity is the same. And when you talk about a Pareto belt, Latinos are 50% of all your diversity. And as I said before, we have consumption habits that are very different than other parts of the diversity. Not better or worse, they're just different. So I always, talking about demography, I always want to point that out because when you see it as a segment rather than as a diversity segment, it's a very interesting business point. Another number that is incredible, 30% of all the babies being born today are Latinos.
Wow. Yeah.
So 30%.
You say, woo!
Exactly, right. So 1 out of every 3 babies being born today are Latinos. So that's a lot of responsibility. That's a lot of potential. That's a huge opportunity. And we've seen brands, baby brands like Baby Gap and some that haven't taken that in account, and you see the results, right? So that's really, those are demographics that for me are incredible. And of course, that number as the age goes up, it's smaller, right? Our participation in 70 plus is 8%. But when you go to the 30th%, that's the young people is the favorite demo of brands, of media, et cetera. So that's one. They're graduating in record numbers. Yeah. The percentage of Latinos increase of Latino graduation is bigger than any other community. And I'm not saying that we're the ones that graduate the most. I'm saying that we're the ones growing in graduation the most. I'm going to give you a number that came out from our report with SHIP, Society of Latino Engineers. So last year we did this report. In 2010, 4% of all the engineering students in the United States were Latinos. That's 2010, only 14 years ago. By 2021, 16% of all the students of engineering were Latinos. That can give you an idea. In 11 years, it quadrupled.
That's fantastic.
So there you go, you know, the kids whose parents now have the possibility of sending their kids to school, right? So I think I could go on and on with my numbers.
Sounds like the possibilities are endless.
There you go, absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think all of us are just so proud of being Latinos, and we're so proud of being members of NALEO. Arturo, thank you so much for bringing us all together in this beautiful city of Las Vegas. I want to say a very special thank you to our panelists. I know that we're going to wrap it up now, but big round of applause for Ana, for Patty, and Alfredo, please. I wish everyone a fabulous rest of the day. I hope that you enjoy the remainder of the breakout sessions. Thank you for joining us for this breakfast. And we're going to leave by inviting the Honorable Gustavo Rivera back to the podium to provide final housekeeping announcements. Thank you all, and look forward to seeing you next year.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
You were great. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage New York State Senator and NALEO First Vice President, Gustavo Rivera.
They reintroduced me because you might have forgotten me since I was last out. But what a thought-provoking panel, and I want to thank again our moderators and our moderator and our panelists. Let's give them one more round of applause, please. Now, before our breakout sessions begin at 10:30 this morning, make sure to check out the NALEO Marketplace out here. Afterwards, you can attend the Together We Rise Asian American and Pacific Islander and Latino Leadership Breakout Session located in the Bellagio Ballrooms 2 and 6. I'll remind you, this is as a partnership with an organization that's called the Asian NALEO that just was founded recently, and they have their first convention just down the hall from us. And to get there, you just have to walk past the ballrooms towards the Bellagio Tower, and when you reach the end of the hall, make a left turn, and you'll see the Bellagio Ballrooms 2 and 6 straight ahead of you. And of course, we still have a lot of great additional programming left for you to enjoy here in our space, including this afternoon's leadership luncheon and plenary, the Latino vote in 2024, right back here in this ballroom. That's going to be an important conversation. So make sure to download and check the conference app for the latest schedule updates. And thank you, everyone. Enjoy your final day of the NALEO 41st Annual Conference. Thank you so much, folks.